Welcome to Perfect Pitch for Intrapreneurs. My name is Linda Plano, and I have the best job in the world. I get to work with smart, creative, and passionate people and help you make your dreams come true. Now, for the most part, I have been coaching high-tech entrepreneurs, almost 600 of them at this point, and they've gone on to raise well over $250 million. But in the meantime, I have gotten to know engineers and scientists inside of multinational corporations, and find that they often have a similar problem with connecting with their investors, which would be the management of their companies, or possibly people in the sales and marketing departments and so on. So I have developed a presentation on Perfect Pitch for Intrapreneurs as well. I'm just going to do a brief overview of, I'll provide you with an excerpt from this 1-hour seminar so that you can see the kinds of things that I talk about, and I'm more than happy to customize this for your company in particular. Okay. So about me, I am a technically trained person with a BS in physics from MIT, a PhD in material science and engineering from Stanford. I have been an entrepreneur since I was in grade school, actually, when I first started making tote bags for my classmates. But really, an entrepreneur for me is anyone who, in whatever organization they're in, they look around and say, okay, how can I really add value to this company or nonprofit, whatever it is? How can I really add value to this organization? And okay, got it, and now I'm going to go and get those resources and really make it happen. I'm going to execute. That's an entrepreneur, and that's how I have addressed every organization I've ever been part of. I am an experienced manager in addition to being experienced in startup companies. I've been everything from a research scientist to a CEO of startup companies and up to a vice president in new business development for more established companies. And throughout, what I have discovered, though, I like doing the most is helping other technical people communicate their ideas to non-technical and business people, and helping business people communicate their concepts to technical people. And so that's why I started Plano and Simple. Okay, so to start with, let's talk about philosophy, how to get what I call perfect pitch. The first thing I want to get across to people who are used to working in the technical side of things is that pitching is not a 4-letter word. I know that that's true literally, but it's also true figuratively. I know that your innovation should speak for itself, right? The technology, your innovation probably has such ramifications, or you wouldn't be this excited about it. It's got amazing ramifications that should be, intuitively obvious to the most casual observer, right? But it doesn't work that way. The people who may have control over the resources that you need in order to develop this innovation are not going to have the time, the energy, possibly they don't have the background or the focus in your area to be able to really appreciate it. It is your job to use a pitch as a communications tool, as a way to get your value proposition recognized by the people with resources so that they can get excited enough about it to provide those resources to you. So another way to think about it is that if you give a technical presentation at a technical conference, then your presentation is a tool like a screwdriver. When you're pitching for resources from somebody who is maybe not focusing on the technology at that point, you've got your pitch is a wrench. It's just different tools for different things you want to accomplish. I will never suggest that the details, the science, the technology, that all of that is not really important. It's just that it doesn't necessarily, the details don't have a role to play in that initial pitch. Have them in your backup slides, take advantage of them, bring them out when you get questions. But if you have a 1-hour meeting with the management team or with your boss or whatever, and you talk for 10 or 15 minutes and they talk for 45, that's a major win, okay? If you have done a great job of clearly stating what the value proposition is and they ask you questions that allow you to elaborate on what's important to them, then they get the feeling that they're being listened to, they're engaged, and they will take your idea and take it to the next person along the line. Okay? So the main thing we're trying to do here then is to make the people in the audience our advocates, and the best way you can do that is to know who your audience is. The easiest way I know to think about this, and I'm going to start off with the approach I take in pitching entrepreneurs, and that is to say investors are basically very simple creatures. Okay? They make up their minds based on just two things: fear and greed. All right? Now, the fact is we all make up our minds this way. It's just a matter of what we're fearful of and greedy for. So in this initial pitch, you don't have time to teach anybody anything. All you can do is get them so excited about what you're doing that they can't wait to learn more. So everything you say should either reduce fear or increase greed, or preferably both, or it doesn't belong in this initial pitch. And that means you don't want to tell them absolutely everything that you know. Even if they give you the time for it, this is not the time to go into great detail. You don't know what's most interesting to them unless you've really done your homework. So don't worry also if you wind up forgetting something in the middle of your pitch or whatever. It's better to get a few ideas across very, very clearly than to try to cram as much information as humanly possible in there. What we want you to do, in other words, is to tune your words for the ears of your audience. That's what I mean by perfect pitch. Not that I want you to pitch perfectly. I want you to tune your words. Because the fact is that it's human nature to want to talk about the things that are of the most interest to us, but it's also human nature to want to hear about the things that are of most interest to us. And since the audience has what you want, whether it's money or personnel or referrals or whatever, they win. What they want to hear about is more important in the context of a pitch than what you want to talk about. Okay, so who is your audience? And the fact is, it depends. If I were customizing this for a specific company, then obviously I would spend some time, this as an aside, I would spend time finding out who the stakeholders are, what the decision-making process is, and so on. But based on my experience in industry, what I would say is, here's where it starts, right? Your idea, your innovation, as the intrapreneur. Maybe you get an idea from specs from the customer, from the sales team. Maybe there's an innovation roadmap that's part of the company strategy, or maybe just by working on whatever your products are or projects are, you get an inspiration. You know, this could really be done more simply this way, or more cost effectively, or lower energy use, whatever. Maybe you just get inspired by what you're working on. But in the end, it's your innovation. But you need money or people or both and the time away from your other responsibilities in order to develop it. So the question is, how are you going to get those resources allocated to you? Well, depending on the company, you may need to pitch to your direct manager, your direct report. Maybe that person has to then pitch for you or bring you along to pitch to a division manager, and maybe it needs to go all the way up to the top executive levels. It really depends on how much money it is and how your company works, obviously. But the other thing to keep in mind is that as complicated as this is, it's actually much, much worse, right? Because first of all, customer is going to influence each level of the company in terms of what is important to achieve, which innovations are going to matter to the company. Oops, and of course, so will there's also influence from your colleagues. There may be lots of great ideas. In fact, if there aren't lots of great ideas coming out of engineering, then maybe your company has bigger problems. So your management has to figure out which of these ideas should we allocate resources to, and which ones, you know, are we going to shelve even though they might be very good ideas. And the sales department may very well have influence at various levels of management saying, look, we can't sell this. We need something. This is what our customers care about, and so on. And let me also emphasize here that pitching to a customer is very, very similar to pitching to a manager. It's just a matter of tweaking your responses to the 10 questions I'm going to show in a moment in a way that is that makes sense to the customer. But for right now, we're just going to be talking about pitching internally to get the resources you need in order to develop the innovations within your department. So remember, we talked about reducing fear and increasing greed. And just to be very super clear on this, fear and greed don't have to refer to money. If you are doing a social enterprise of some kind, for instance, you may be greedy for doing great good in the world, and your fear may be that you will not be able to survive, your company won't be able to survive without getting enough support. I guess that's money. Or let's say you're an artist and your fear is that you won't have the opportunity for artistic expression, and your greed is to be able to create exactly your vision. It doesn't have to be about money. Now, because we're talking business, and generally speaking mostly is, but I would submit to you that for pretty much anybody in a company, job security is going to be a fear and greed issue, right? If they make, there's that saying, nobody ever got fired for buying IBM. You know, you are asking people to take a risk on a new innovation, and they have to evaluate, is this going to make me more solid or less solid within this company? They need to address, the greed side is, we're going to be able to grow this business dramatically. On the fear side is, you know, this is just going to cost so much money, it's going to hurt us in terms of our projections. And on the greed side, chances are, if you're listening to this, this is an innovation-focused business, and you're greedy for being an industry leader in an innovation area. If you're pitching to customers, then they may not, well, they may worry about their job security as well. You buy something besides IBM, maybe you go out of business, right? But the fear and greed that you're probably going to be addressing the most directly is their ability to grow their business, whether by increasing revenue or reducing overhead. They are going to be very concerned that you can deliver products that do what you claim they will, and that they get them in the time frame that you promise. And possibly even more important than that is that they fit within the budget that they anticipated. So affordable, working products on time. Obviously, I can't be specific about your management and your customers because I don't know who they are precisely. The more you can find out about what they care about and what the individuals you're talking to care about, the more you can tune your words and the more successful you are likely to be. Okay, so that's my perfect pitch philosophy. Now let's touch on some of my favorite tips and tools. The 10 questions, well, we'll get to those in a minute. First off, every time you pitch, I want you to do 3 things. Number 1, introduce yourself. I mean, if you are on a first name basis with people, you don't really need to do that. But generally speaking, even if you're being introduced on a stage someplace, I would introduce myself. Because the fact is, a pitch is about trust and building this relationship with the other people. People invest in people much more than they do in the technologies. People, in fact, the way our brains are wired, people tend to make their decisions based on emotion and then justify with logic later on. So trusting you is the first step in getting what you want. I want you to end every pitch with an ask. If you don't tell your audience what you need from them, then you're making them work, and the chances are you're not going to get what you're looking for. So make sure you ask something simple and clear at the end of every pitch. In between, tell the audience why they should care about what you're doing. Now, depending on how much time you have, will determine how much depth you can get into. So let's say you have a 1-minute elevator pitch. Maybe all you have time to do then is to capture the imagination of the audience with your value proposition. If you've got more time than that, if you've got 10 minutes, you can take the time to validate this opportunity and to achieve buy-in from your audience so that they actually want to fund it. They're just waiting to give you money, okay? All right, now to achieve these 3 blocks of success, I have these 10 questions that every pitch should answer. And they are in very simple terms, which does not mean that they are easy to answer. but they are simple to keep in mind, and they cover 10 areas of interest to any business manager or any investor. And I will again emphasize that it is important to have the details, the technology, the the complexity of the interwoven parts that go into your technology, just not in the context of the pitch. We're aiming for a 10-minute pitch so that your audience can tell you what it is they want to delve into. Okay, so why should I care? That is who your customer is and what their pain is, the market pain and the market size. Question 2, what is it you do in language that I can understand? That's your secret sauce. And how much detail you get into with that will depend on how sophisticated your audience is and how much time for pitching you have. 3, why are you better? That's your competitive advantage versus other projects within the company and on the outside. Number 4, how will you stay better? That's your intellectual property status and strategy. That is, well, I'll talk more about that in a little bit. The relative importance of your intellectual property is going to depend, again, on the type of company that you have. Question 5, does it work? So is this just a great idea, something you've tried out on the lab bench a couple of times, or is this something that you've kind of tried in beta and have gotten your friends to try out and they just love it? Or maybe you even have some real traction from actual paying customers for something you've done in a skunkworks. The more traction, the better, generally speaking, although obviously you don't want to risk releasing any proprietary information out into the real world without management's blessing. 6, how will you make money? This is the business model. Now, I don't expect an intrapreneur to want to develop a whole special business model just for their particular innovation, but you should understand how your innovation fits in with the existing business model of your company. If you are asking your management to start a whole new division or some sort of just partly related kind of a business, they're not going to fund it. It would be crazy to do that unless there is some inherent part of the strategy of the business that they want to get into this area. They're not looking to do that. Don't even bother pitching it, because it just doesn't make sense to pursue a technology that doesn't fit within what the business is meant to do. Now, if you're a Bell Labs or something like that, in the old days when you could pursue things that were not necessarily telecommunications related, that would be okay. But you'll notice, if you even know what Bell Labs is anymore, since it's been quite a while, once the industry got deregulated, Bell Labs could no longer afford to pursue things that weren't related to the business model. Okay, question 7, how much will you make? And that's really how much would we make based on selling this product. And again, I don't expect you to suddenly become a financial wizard if that's not your bailiwick, but you should have a general idea of what people are willing to pay for this product and how much you can make it for. You should know something about what gross margins are typically for this business, and what it will take. What is the opportunity here for the company to be a success based on this innovation? Okay, next question, why you? Now, again, if everybody knows who you are, you don't have to get into a lot of detail on this, but chances are you're going to need a team of people to pursue this particular innovation, right? And so who are the people you have gathered together or ideally want to bring together onto a team to make it a success? What is it about your background that maybe they don't know that means you will be particularly good at executing on this, developing this innovation? Those are the kinds of things we care about for an intrapreneur. What will you do is your development plan, and how much will it cost? Is the budget you need basically to achieve the development and the product or service release that you are proposing. I'm going to take the time right now just to go through one or two of the questions just to give you the idea. This is an aside again to whoever is listening to this as an excerpt from what would be the full presentation. So why should I care? Market size, market pain, knowing who the customer is, The picture is a little bit of a joke, right? Because most management teams are not going to look quite like that. But the idea is that there is so much information coming at the decision makers in a company on any given day that if you want to get a new novel concept across to them, especially if it's not during some meeting that is oriented toward this, this is the attitude, the mental attitude that you're going to have to be dealing with. Show me what you got. Show me why it is that what you're developing is going to be more valuable to me to spend company resources on than the other 5,900 things that we could be spending the resources on. So what we're looking for here is who is the customer, whether it's internal inside the business, so your innovation will make the company run better, or it's an external customer. What's the pain that they are feeling out there in the marketplace, and how many people are there with that problem? And the fear that we are trying to reduce here is that it's just a cool technology for you that you like, that's not really doesn't make business sense. And the greed we want to feed is, wow, I totally get why our customers or our engineers or our production people will really want to have this innovation in their lives. They will want this day in and day out, okay? So the way to do this, major things that I want you to do in order to be successful in making these 2 points is to define who your customer is. Again, whether it's an internal person on a production line who, let's say your innovation allows them to save 10% of their time on any given task that they repeat 40 times a day. That is knowing what that person does, how they are, how that 10% time savings will improve their ability to be productive and so on. Those are the kinds of issues you need to answer for an internal customer, for an external customer. What is it that they wish they had out of your product lines, or what new innovation are they looking for that still fits within your business? So know who your customer is as specifically as possible. And then knowing who they are, how many of them are there, and how much money are they spending on the problem right now today, how often, and then multiply those numbers together in order to get a really good estimate of your initial niche and what you expect it to grow into. Obviously, your company is going to have people who are projecting market sizes and so on, and I would definitely take advantage of those numbers to say, okay, let's do a reality check. This does, in fact, make sense. My bottoms-up calculation fits within what our projections say that they will be. I would never start from the projections and work down, though, because that can be very, very misleading. You're starting with knowing who the customer is and what they are spending today. That will give you a much better understanding of how to build this item and what will and won't work for them. This last point, that don't tell people that you are only going to need a very small share of a big market in order to be successful. This is probably not important for an internal customer, but for external customers, saying that, well, if we spend money on developing this particular innovation, then we'll get maybe a 2% increase in revenue for this product line. That may very well not be worth the resources to put into it. There may be other things out there that will get a 10% increase, or open up a new market segment, or do all kinds of other things. If you are saying that you're only going to get the small percentage increase in an existing market, then why is this something really exciting for the company to invest in? Is this really better than the other, like I said before, 5,900 other things that the company could invest money internally on the development of? Okay. Question number 2, what is it you do in language I can understand? This is, again, a kind of a joke picture, because nothing is going to cover physics and chemistry and mathematics and whatever else is on this particular photograph, but I often do see slides that are this completely covered with information. Remember, when you're pitching, that people are seeing this information probably for the first time. They're going to get 40 to maybe 90 seconds for each slide to digest what's in there, and they have to be listening to you. Remember, I don't want your audience to be thinking, worrying, or reading while you're pitching, because if they're doing those things, they are not listening to you and they're not relating to you. That means you are losing an opportunity to build that relationship, to build trust in what you're saying and what you're doing. It's all about relationships here. Technology is critical. You've got to have a great idea, but you also have to be somebody they want to work with. So we don't want to go into this level of jargon and formulas and so on when we're doing a pitch. Keep that information available in backup. What we're trying to avoid is for management to say, well, whoever this is that's pitching and his team or her team, they just want to play in the lab, get a bunch of money from us, and they're going to play around with things, and it'll never go anywhere. And on the greed side of things says, okay, I get it. You know, they just did this great job describing the problem in answering the previous question, and I see how this is really going to make a difference for the customers that they're talking about. At this point, I encourage you to talk about what it is your technology does to solve that problem rather than how it works. How it works belongs in the backup slides. If you're going to talk to a customer, how it works belongs not just in backup, but probably not along on those first couple of meetings at all, because you need to protect your proprietary information. So describing what it does rather than how it works is a really great way to get people engaged with what it is that your company, what your innovation does, as opposed to how it works. Get them excited about the secret sauce. Sorry. This is not the time to try to force a non-disclosure agreement from a customer. Obviously, if you're internal, it shouldn't be that big of a deal to be able to talk about the details. But I encourage you to really think about what is it that I can talk about that will encourage the management team to be excited about learning more about the details, or to assign somebody to learn more about the details, or something like that. So very often my clients will tell me that, you know, you just want me to dumb down my technology for this audience, and that's absolutely not what I want you to do. First of all, it's disrespectful to your audience to think about it as dumbing down, and in fact, they have what you want. So even if they happen to be dumb, which they almost certainly are not, you are going to be damaging your relationship with them with this subconscious thinking of them as being dumb. Mark Twain once said that, you know, if I'd had more time, I would have written less. So that is an indication of just how difficult it is to write about, or to present something very clearly that has inherent complexity. Okay, so think about it as clarification rather than as dumbing down. So rather than take you through the details on all of the remaining questions, because I know how valuable your time is, just say that I go into this level of detail for a 1-hour seminar on the 10 questions. So we've done questions 1 and 2. I would go through all of these, particularly focusing on what's important to the management team in terms of innovation development. There are a couple of slides that I find particularly effective, even if this competition matrix is a little cliche. I do talk about the best way to show it and to how to use it as a tool, even if you don't want to show it for the presentation itself, and so on. When I teach all right, and then I will finish up with this slide here, which shows those same 3 blocks: capture their imagination, which is about questions 1 through 3, validating the opportunity, questions 4 through 7, and achieving buy-in, just questions 8 through 10. And these questions I could talk about for a couple of minutes, as I may have when I met you, or I can talk about them over the course of an hour in a webinar or a seminar, or I can also do one-day workshops where I alternate between teaching and having the entrepreneurs actually implement, try to develop their 1-minute elevator pitch, do some exercises in terms of their representing their innovation and talking about competition and so on. I have also developed a one-day workshop for those who invest in startups and innovations. That is something that looks at those 10 questions and says, okay, how should these be answered in order for it to be worth investing in this particular idea? I do a lot of one-on-one coaching, which I can do by webinar or in person, which is, we start with a review of the value proposition and then rebuilding and restructuring the pitch, including the design of the slides and optimizing the story for the particular audience, customer, internal management, whatever. And I also offer the service of actually developing that, that pitch so that you have a professional deck. I'd be happy to work with your marketing department to make sure that it matches your branding, obviously. And there's all kinds of things that people need. I'm happy to customize in any way. I am an intrapreneur, or an entrepreneur rather, myself, and so I'd be very happy to talk to you about ways that I can be very helpful to you. So thank you for listening to this half-hour introduction, and I hope you find it useful and interesting. Please do give me a call at 857-230-0188. It's 857-230-0188 in the United States, or you can reach me on my email at linda@planoandsimple.com. So just my first name, linda@planoandsimple.com. And regardless of whether you take advantage of my services, thank you for listening, and the best of luck and success in supporting and growing innovation within your company.